Between 1993 and 2024, Las Vegas destroyed more of its own history than any city in America, and most people cheered. We're counting down 10 iconic casinos, cultural landmarks, and vanished promises that the Strip buried forever, ranging from televised implosions turned into celebration spectacles to something far bigger than any single building. At number 10, the countdown begins with a New Year's Eve demolition that changed everything. In the 10th place, the Hacienda stood at the southern edge of the Strip, opening its doors in 1956 with the promise of sunlit pools and affordable rooms. For decades, it was a modest outpost, never the flashiest, but always within reach for ordinary travelers. Its final act was anything but quiet. On December 31st, 1996, as the clock ticked toward midnight, the Hacienda's tower was wired with explosives and the implosion was broadcast live on Fox, transforming demolition into a New Year's Eve countdown for a national audience. Crowds gathered, fireworks erupted, and the building's end became a televised spectacle. Yet beneath the spectacle, something vanished, the sense that Vegas could be both accessible and unpretentious. The neon horse sign was sent to a museum, the fixtures were given to charity, and the land was cleared for Mandalay Bay. A new era of polished corporate grandeur rose from the rubble. With the Hacienda's implosion, Las Vegas discovered how to turn erasure into entertainment, and that set the tone for everything that would follow. Number 9, the Landmark Hotel rose like a promise of the future, a 31-story space-age tower that hovered above the Strip, all curves and ambition. Its journey began with delays and financial struggles, only to be rescued by Howard Hughes, who bought the unfinished project just before its 1969 opening for $17 million. The Landmark never found its footing, an architectural vanity that outlived its purpose but not its debts. When the end finally came on November 7th, 1995, there were no fireworks, no crowds, just the silent collapse of concrete and steel, leaving behind not a new resort, but a barren lot. For more than 2 decades, that empty space stood as a monument to squandered potential, a reminder that in Las Vegas, even the grandest dreams can vanish without a trace or a replacement. Here, the spectacle was not in the demolition, but in the void that followed. In 8th place, the Dunes Hotel stood as an Arabian fantasy on the Strip, its Sultan sign beckoning travelers from 1955. But by October 1993, the Dunes was not just obsolete, it was a stage. Steve Wynn orchestrated its end with a cannon blast from a pirate ship, igniting 365 pounds of dynamite and a cascade of fireworks. This was more than demolition. It was a ticketed event, a televised performance where erasure itself became the attraction. The dunes vanished in smoke and applause, clearing the way for the Bellagio's polished fountains. In that moment, Las Vegas learned to turn memory into marketing, spectacle into profit, and the past into a footnote beneath a new kind of luxury. Number 7, the Desert Inn opened its doors in 1950, offering a kind of understated elegance that would come to define early Las Vegas. Its lobby echoed with the footsteps of celebrities and tycoons, and Howard Hughes famously took over the penthouse in 1967, refusing to leave until he owned the place. For half a century, the Desert Inn stood apart, not for neon excess, but for its calm luxury and the green sweep of its golf course, a rare oasis on the Strip. When its end came in October 2001, it was a muted affair. Just 6 weeks after September 11th, Steve Wynn chose silence over spectacle. There were no fireworks, no crowds, no live broadcasts, only the quiet collapse of history behind locked gates. Yet even as the hotel vanished, the golf course survived, folded into the grounds of Wynn Las Vegas. In this rare case, a fragment of the past endured, but the old world glamour and sense of possibility that once lingered in the air disappeared forever. The Desert Inn's passing marked not just the loss of a building, but the end of an era that believed dignity mattered as much as dazzle. Number 6, the Riviera once towered over the Strip as a beacon of mid-century ambition. A high rise of glass and neon opened in 1955 that set the pace for Vegas's vertical dreams. Its name became Hollywood shorthand for the city itself, immortalized in films like Casino and Ocean's 11, where gangsters, danksters, and dreamers brushed shoulders beneath the shimmering marquee. By 2016, that glamour was no longer enough. The Riviera's end came in 2 calculated acts. First, a June implosion sent one tower crumbling. Then a second blast in August finished the job. The land was claimed for the Las Vegas Convention Center's westward expansion, a shift from stardust and showgirls to trade shows and business deals. Its iconic neon signs escaped the wrecking ball, preserved at the Neon Museum, but the spirit they once advertised could not be boxed or archived. In trading cinematic myth for commerce, Vegas erased a piece of its own legend. Number 5. The Sands was more than a hotel. It was the beating heart of Rat Pack Vegas. Opened in 1952, its Copa Room stage became a sanctuary for Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr., a place where legends improvised, joked, and blurred the line between performer and guest. The Sands marquee flickered through the 1960s, immortalized in the final shot of Ocean's 11, promising that anyone could brush shoulders with royalty for a night. On November 26, 1996, 2,000 pounds of explosives and a barrage of fireworks erased the last direct link to that era. The crowd cheered, the sky lit up, and the city severed its own memory. The Venetian would rise in its place, bigger, grander, and utterly disconnected from the world Sinatra once ruled. The original sand sign survives only in fragments at the Neon Museum, a relic of a promise Vegas no longer keeps. If you remember the Sands, or wish you could have, tell us what old Vegas means to you below. The countdown now moves from vanished buildings to the ghosts of the culture they carried. Number 4, the Stardust was the Strip's monument to scale and secrecy. A colossus that opened in 1958 as the world's largest hotel, only to become infamous for the shadows beneath its neon glow. By the 1970s, the Stardust was ground zero for mob skimming, its profits siphoned off in hidden suitcases, while FBI agents documented every move under Operation Strawman. On March 13, 2007, at exactly 2:34 in the morning, the past was obliterated in a single orchestrated blast. The implosion sent a cloud of dust billowing for 20 minutes, as if the city itself needed time to process what was being buried. Decades of whispered deals, silent partners, and an underworld that shaped Las Vegas far more than any public spectacle. In the Stardust's place, Resort's world would eventually rise, polished, corporate, and sanitized. Yet nothing built since has matched the weight of what vanished in that cloud when the city chose profit over memory and spectacle over truth. Coming to the top 3, the Tropicana's final curtain fell in the early hours of October 9th, 2024, as a synchronized ballet of drones and fireworks lit up the Strip. For 67 years, this resort stood as the last survivor of mob-era Las Vegas, a place where the Foley's Burgere Revue ran nearly half a century, where showgirls in feathered headdresses and tuxedoed gamblers conjured a world both glamorous and attainable. Its opening in 1957 marked a new chapter of ambition, and for decades the Tropicana's low-slung wings and palm-shaded pool drew everyone from honeymooners to Hollywood stars. But in the end, the demolition itself became the headline. Nearly 100 technicians orchestrated a drone light show, painting neon memories in the night sky before the towers collapsed at 2:37 in the morning. The spectacle was designed for the streaming era, but what vanished was a living link to the city's unrulier, more democratic past. In its place will rise a baseball stadium and a new resort, yet another reinvention, another promise that the future is brighter if only the past can be erased. The Tropicana's end proves that in Las Vegas, even nostalgia is staged, and the appetite for spectacle never sleeps. Number 2, the Rat Pack's Las Vegas has faded into myth, a vanished geography of glamour, swagger, and contradiction. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford turned the Sands into their personal playground, drawing sold-out crowds to the Copa Room in 1960 for nightly summit shows that blurred the line between stage and audience. Here, the fantasy of Vegas as an equalizer took shape, where a school teacher from Ohio might sip cocktails just tables away from Hollywood royalty. Yet beneath the spotlight, the city's realities intruded. Sammy Davis Jr., a headliner, was still barred from the casino floor and forced to enter through the kitchen, a reminder that Vegas's promise of inclusion was always selective. The laughter and music spilled out across the Strip, but segregation kept black performers housed on the west side, inside, their presence celebrated on stage and erased off it. Every venue that hosted these legends, including the Sands, the Desert Inn, and the Riviera, has been demolished. Their neon signs preserved only as relics in a museum. What remains are echoes, grainy recordings, fading photographs, and the persistent ache of a city that traded living memory for spectacle. The Rat Pack's Las Vegas is now a ghost, more legend than place, its atmosphere impossible to rebuild or buy back. And finally, in first place, what vanished was not a building, but a promise. A social contract that once defined Las Vegas as the city where anyone could taste glamour, if only for a night. The old Vegas invited strangers to become insiders, offering cheap rooms, all-you-can-eat buffets, and the thrill of brushing shoulders with legends. Now, the numbers tell a different story. Resort fees average $40 per night, added with the quiet inevitability of a toll. Bottled water at a pool cabana can reach $26. A simple cup of drip coffee costs $12. The city that once sold fantasy to the masses now sells necessity at a premium. Visitors are noticing growth has slowed to a crawl, with repeat guests quietly slipping away, their absence marked by empty seats at blackjack tables and shuttered buffets that once fed crowds for a few bucks. The Neon Museum stands as the last formal memory bank, preserving the glowing relics of a lost era while the strip grows taller and colder. The modern skyline is a graveyard of erased promises, each new tower built on the bones of what came before. In chasing spectacle and profit, Las Vegas buried its own soul. The real casualty is the feeling that anyone could belong here, if only for a weekend. What died was not just old Vegas, but the belief in a city where the extraordinary was within reach for everyone. Across these vanished landmarks, one pattern remains. Las Vegas sacrifices memory for spectacle, erasing not just buildings, but the very soul that once drew dreamers. What died wasn't just old neon, but a promise of magic and belonging. In chasing profit, the city lost its most irreplaceable illusion.